Hello, everybody. Welcome. This is Actionable AI Series, Part 5, the AI Ready Campus. All right, so let's get started. Welcome to the Actionable AI Series, Part 5. We're going to talk about AI Ready Campus today. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Artis Kadu. I'm the founder and CEO of Element 451. I've been your host for the past 4 webinar series. We're going to dive into the AI Ready Campus today. We're going to wrap up this series. The first part was around making sense of AI. We talked a lot about what it is, how we can use some of it. AI for student experience, part 2. And we focused a lot on use cases, AI for productivity, another one of my favorites. Last week, we had Andy Koritari, which was from National Louis University. It was a great treat. I think we packed that one for teaching and learning, and that was last week. And today, we're going to wrap everything up as part of this series on the AI Ready Campus. We're going to talk about some of the things that are actionable, but we're also going to touch base and bring in a couple components from the other series as well, or from the other episodes in this series. So what you might be thinking, what is the future campus? What is AI campus that we're talking about? 2 weeks ago, Tembolini Group put together a conference talking about future campus, focusing a lot around data and AI. And this whole idea of the future campus, it's something that we constantly have to think about ourselves. New technology, as new modes come around, we start thinking about what it is and how can we prepare for that as technologists, as people who are working every day. But an article put together by Jeff Delingo, he's probably one of the most prolific writers and thinkers out there, and thinking about the future of higher education. You're probably familiar with some of his books as well. But essentially, this article was in the Chronicle of Higher Education last week, and it focused specifically on competition over amenities is over. The next battleground is technology. So that's the title of the articles. And what Jeff kind of puts forth is that we are past the era where the bigger campus, the amenities, the lazy river, so to speak, of some of our campuses are what attracted the students in. And if we were able to show them the campus and campus life, then they would definitely come there. So we're past that. Technology, because of the modes of operation, or because of the modes of teaching and learning, and a lot of our students are kind of taking classes online and so on and so forth. The main component, or what the next battleground is, around technology. What is the technology that we're providing to our students, how we're getting them ready? One of the things that's really important as institutions, you probably saw last week, or actually 2 weeks ago, ASU was one of the first institutions that partnered with OpenAI to give ChatGPT in the classroom and to the whole campus. So when we look at what the next campus looks like and what this future campus looks like, we are focusing on technology as a differentiator, as an enabler for the next wave of the value add that we're bringing to everybody's education. So think about that as we go through, and think about it as we're trying to, kind of differentiate ourselves. Technology is going to be one of those key areas in here. Going back to Jeff, because this is really important, and we talked about this in a little bit during our student experience section, but I wanted to pull this back up. If students don't think a college will do enough to provide engaging student experience and a return on their investment, they're going to look elsewhere, right? So this whole idea of providing a better student experience, providing them with the ROI that they're looking for, and given that we're thinking technology is the next battleground, you're providing for that student access to technology, access to this next wave of education and technology that is going to be very important in the workplace. We're competing with different brands on the experience side, but also on the value side. So AI can help in all of these areas, right? So AI can help us, and we're going to kind of wrap it up. We're going to talk a little bit about, touch base on some of the different areas. But when we think about the effect of AI that it will have on higher education, I go back to Sal Khan. Of course, for those of you who don't know, is a founder of Khan Academy. And again, he works with K-12 schools, or a lot of the content is more focused on K-12, but he's a very prolific thinker on personalized education, right? So one of the key points that he makes is that AI has the potential to revolutionize education, making it more personalized, engaging, and effective. This whole idea of the cost of education, it's being brought up over and over again, and the ROI education is being brought up over and over again. So as we think about, what does that mean for our campuses? How do we transform our campuses to take advantage of AI, to be AI ready and to be AI literate, and then provide that to our students and provide that to our faculty and our staff so we can advance our organizations for this next generation or this next wave of transformation and digital transformation? We sometimes as leaders play a huge role in that part of it. And one quote that I wanted to bring up, and I'll show a little bit of a clip as well, but Julie Sweet, she manages one of the largest consulting companies, which is Accenture, and they deal with organizations, digital transformation every single day. But she says that the biggest difference between those who will use AI successfully and not are the leaders educating themselves. Now, imagine that. Let that sink in. The leaders educating themselves. How can organizations and how can institutions be effective in adopting new technology, change management without an AI, without understanding and them thinking about the effect of it for their organization? We don't want to have leaders that are just waiting and seeing what everybody else is doing. We need to jump on this next wave to make sure that we as leaders understand the effect of AI in organizations. We are AI literate and also, can set up organizations for a future or for a huge potential benefit on it. So I'm going to play a clip that Julie put together because it's very apropos to like how were we thinking about security and email and all these things and how that kind of translates to today's world. So this was at the World Economic Forum, and I'm going to play you this clip as we go on, but just listen to her and how she's framing this around her organization.
I'm old enough that I remember when I was working at my law firm and email was introduced. And I remember because I was a young lawyer who, after 5, you had to stand by the fax machine yourself to fax anything to send to a client. So email came, and we thought, this is amazing. And the heads of my law firm said, well, email's great, but you cannot attach a document and send it to a client because it's not safe. Now think about that. A little bit of what's happening today when we have these abstract conversations, our employees actually want, in many cases, to use this technology, and they're going to start pulling. For example, if you do field sales in consumer goods, you spend most of your time trying to figure out what was the customer, did we have a delivery issue because that's a different department and all that. And today, with the technology today, with all the appropriate caveats, you can very accurately now on your phone be told which customer to go to, whether they had a delivery problem, generate something personalized, and then spend most of your time talking to your customer, which is how you really grow. So when we think about AI, of course, there are different risks. The technology is going to change, as Sam said, right? And it's all about knowing what is it good for now? How can you implement it with the right safeguards? As a CEO, I have someone I can call in my company. They can tell me where AI is used, what the risks are, how we manage them, and therefore we implement it. And so we're implementing it broadly in the areas where it's ready now. But I think we have to be careful that we don't, you started this panel by saying we're going to solve the problem of AI. And the immediate thing I said is, I hope we're going to figure out how to use AI, because it's a huge opportunity, and I'm sure Albert's going to talk about what it's going to do for science, but it's also doing a lot of great things for our people who don't want to spend their time reading and trying to figure out things and would love to spend their time with clients, with customers. So the single biggest difference between those who will use it successfully and not, I believe, are leaders educating themselves. So they're not the ones that told me I couldn't email a document. But you cannot do that if you do not spend the time to learn the technology and then apply it in a responsible way.
So huge kind of takeaways from that one. We look at AI right now and saying, okay, we got to fix the problem of AI. We look at it from a security perspective, from a risk adverse perspective. And what I took out of that is that as leaders, we need to set the right tone in our organizations, and we need to push for that. One of the things she mentions is, the employees or you guys are going to start using AI. You're going to pull for it. So it's going to be a bottom-up approach. However, our organizations need to get ready. Your students are already using it. In a survey, about 50% of the students, this was in October, said that they're already using it for classroom. And in January, that number in some of the classes in the webinar or the series we had last week, they said about 100% of the students have actually tried and are using it in their classrooms. So we as leaders need to become more in tune and kind of push forward rather than be detractors of it. So we need to understand it and move forward. So again, as you're thinking about your institutions, here is how a survey from MIT Technology Review, this is maybe 2 months old. So here's how institutions think about AI or companies think about AI. Let's kind of come into your own institutions and how do you think about it? 98% think that it will impact business deeply. So imagine that. And that number is probably 100% right now, while you still have some of the naysayers. But these are organizational leaders across spectrum saying 98% of them think that it will impact business deeply. But guess what? Only 9% have adopted AI, which is incredible, right? So when you look at these numbers, we have a huge gap in how do we get our campuses ready for the adoption of AI? How do we think about adding AI to our campuses? That's what we try to do throughout this webinar series, is we try to pick on the different areas that AI can be used today, give you literacy, and showcase different examples and different use cases on the 3 most touched areas of the campus, right? How can it improve and how can it be used for student experience? How can you use it for productivity? And how can it be used in the classroom in teaching and learning? So we covered all of those. If you haven't looked at those sessions yet, I highly recommend you go back and you take a look at them. We're going to give you a little bit of a wrap up or a little bit of a preview as what we discussed in each one of those. So when you look at the effect of AI or how it can be used in the student experience, we have different areas that we feel are very strongly about you can kind of start using today, or you should start thinking about it. The first one, this is really a no-brainer, is actually handling that front line questions and having the support, the frontline support to your students. So having AI chatbots and 24/7 support is a huge, huge benefit that you can benefit from AI right now. The chatbots of before ChatGPT, we called BC before ChatGPT, they were okay, they couldn't cut it, but the newer bots and AI bots are much more personable and can do a lot more for students. Hyper-personalized marketing. So this is another area where now we don't have to rely on updating our communication flows once every year. We can go very personalized with the right tools and CRMs. We can get down to the individual student level, see exactly what they're asking or see exactly their preferences and kind of personalize communications based on their data points, have a one-on-one communication with them. And the last one is this proactive outreach component. So for current students, you can improve their experience by just being more proactive, and AI can help in that. It can help in the personalization of those outreaches. It can also help in the ability for you to identify the signals and who you need to reach out to. Of course, we've all heard about early alerts, but those are just flags that's like come in when the student is in distress, right? When there's something negative about it. But the proactive outreach doesn't have to be that. It can be reminders, it can be, kudos, it can be, when something good happens. We at Element, one of the most widely opened emails and one of the ones that open the most and we get the most replies across all of our institutions is a very simple happy birthday workflow and email that you put in for the institutions. Now imagine you add this proactive outreach for all your courses. You got an A, you got a B, you got something positive. Like that is a huge, huge benefit. And with the new generation, Gen Z, that we're dealing with, constant reaffirmation is one of the core tenets of how they like to be recognized. Their love language, so to speak, is constant reaffirmation that they're doing the right thing, they're in the right path, and that proactive outreach plays a huge role in that. All right. So when we change then the focus from, okay, the student experience, and now we focus on productivity. Productivity and AI kind of go hand in hand, right? AI can accelerate a lot of the workflows that we're doing. It can become a lot easier for us as content creators, as folks who are dealing with communication and marketing, and also starting to fit it into writing and knowledge. As knowledge workers, we deal a lot with information, and AI can be a huge, huge boost in that. So let's think about the three different use cases of how it can focus on productivity. And again, during our prior webinars, we focused a lot on breaking these down in actionable, specific use cases. So think about content generation. Content generation as a knowledge worker is what you do most of the time. You're writing a marketing campaign, you're writing an email, you're writing a text, you're communicating with people, you're writing content for your classroom, you're writing a report. All of this stuff is content generation, and AI is really, really good at that. Specifically, generative AI with our bots like ChatGPT, Bard, and Claude. It's very, very good at that. But then we take in some of those components and we bring them into our own tools, like Copilot, for example. And an Element, we've developed kind of these Copilots that are writing full campaigns for you, and they're generating automatic replies and so on and so forth. The second part is knowledge discovery. Now, imagine someone new coming to your organization and your school or your institution, or even your team. Like the main thing that you do is they have a lot of questions. Well, how do you do this? What do you find this? I got asked this question. What happens? So knowledge discovery is something that we do every day. How many times do you Google something and you try to find information on that particular topic? Now, we have our own internal knowledge bases at our institutions and our own processes. And this is an area where AI is really good for productivity. We mentioned last time that a tool that we highly recommend for knowledge discovery is a tool called perplexity.ai. And I use it every single day to it's a combination of Google and ChatGPT with references. The last part in productivity is around actionable insights. It's around data. It's around how do you work with data. Most of the work that we do have a component of metrics and understanding data and working with data in marketing, in a lot of different areas as well, in student success as we work with these different systems. So actionable insights with AI are really powerful, and you can do that through the use of ChatGPT with some of the code interpreter or advanced data analysis. So you can use AI for productivity around data reporting. Of course, Microsoft Copilot introduced that for Excel as well. I don't know how well it works. If you have really large data sets, it doesn't work very well. But you can now go in and query Excel for certain outcomes in there as well. So again, let's kind of use AI to boost our productivity. If you need a report done, let's use technology for that, right? And the last part that we focused on was around teaching and learning. So teaching and learning, we as CRM and kind of working a lot with the marketing, enrollment folks and student success, we sometimes forget about the classroom side, right? So when we talk about AI, it has a huge effect in teaching and learning. If you remember from the last webinar, we talked about the Two Sigma problem, where the benefits of having one-on-one tutors or having personalized tutors it's huge on the kind of outcomes of students, right? So when we look at teaching and learning and AI, there's actually 4 areas where this is that we talked about last time, right? One of them was around content and curriculum development. It's like, how do we develop curriculum and how do we develop content that kind of matches learning outcomes? So anything from building lesson plans to building summaries of that content. Again, go back to some of our prior webinars and take a look at it. But we think about curriculum development, content very hand in hand, very closely related together. And generative AI has been a huge kind of accelerator of that. The other one is personalized learning. So when you think about personalized learning, it's around this idea of how do you build multilingual content, for example, or multimodal content. So can you translate your courses for different students? Can you build different kind of exams for different students? So again, this is really important in personalizing learning because not everybody learns the same. And as we incorporate AI into our classroom, this becomes really a huge win for us very fast. Assessment is another area where we have to do a lot of work in order to build personalized assessments around different learning outcomes, and AI can help us a lot in there. For example, aligning ourselves, with the outcomes that we want out of that class, or perhaps if there's a nursing program or if there is a program that focuses on competencies, how do we align those and how do we build those assessments and kind of align that together? One of the use cases that was really interesting was around how does somebody, a new student coming in, how do I do a course evaluation for transfer credits? And a student has taken this course in another school, but I don't have an equivalency course in here, so I need to compare curriculum and see how to do that. AI can do that very easily and very fast and can say, okay, this course is named this somewhere else, but let's look at the curriculum, compare it, see if it's the equivalent of that. The last but not least in here, it's AI tutors. Man, oh man, AI tutors is probably one of the most exciting parts. So if you think about bringing an AI alongside, a classroom, now when that student has a question, you can answer that student in real time. They can go to the AI tutor for that particular class and they can ask questions that it incorporates all the learning materials or learning outcomes, it incorporates all the course materials, all the lecture notes and everything that's available. Now you wrap that up all together and make that into an AI tutor bot. And this is an area where we are going to see so much more innovation happening with different platforms. One of the use cases I used last time was with Harvard CS50. They used an AI tutor for that class for things like rubber ducking, for evaluations, and they saw tremendous results and tremendous feedback from their students that was super helpful, and they're going to now adopt it for a lot of their other coding classes in AI tutors as well. So as we think about these multiple areas of our institutions and we start talking about, okay, how do we become AI ready, right? We put together a little bit of a framework of how you can think about this, right? We talked about the different use cases because that's where people get stuck the most. It's like, I know this AI thing is around. I just don't know how to apply it. I don't know some use cases. So that's why we spend most of our time, like 3-4 sessions on just that. But the frameworks and some of the thinking around it, we put together a couple of resources for you that we're going to make available after the webinar as well. You can kind of take those and kind of start incorporating with our own institution. So what does this AI Ready campus mean? Like, what does that mean? AI readiness is about helping people understand enough about AI to make good decisions about using AI to meet their particular needs, right? So you have different workflows internally, and you need to kind of automate them and make them better faster. And how do you make decisions on what tools to incorporate? What kind of technology do you acquire? What kind of skills do you get everybody to upskill to? So that's kind of the AI readiness that we're talking about. So when we talk about it, there's two parts to it. There's the AI literacy, right? So AI literacy, it's all about a broad understanding of how AI works and a knowledge of its existing and potential applications. We try to do that throughout this webinar series. We try to bring that together and start thinking about, okay, how can AI, help you and be more literate in your today, right? So when you start thinking about that is, okay, as leaders, remember that as leaders, you need to be AI literate as well, because you're driving your organizations in this case. So start thinking about this literacy. Again, it's empowering your educators to be AI ready. AI readiness is about, again, helping people's understanding of AI. And on the second part is we switch into practicality. It's like the ability to implement a valuable AI project to take advantage of these new opportunities and solve a real business challenge. So the readiness component and the evaluation is two parts. You talk about AI literacy, how ready and how people understand the AI. And then the second part is about practicality. How do you implement something? Do you understand a workflow that can be valuable? That now you can connect AI to a business need that you have. So these two parts are an evaluation framework that we are thinking about or we're going to use. And there's a lot of questions that we have developed that talk about each individual one. So again, we're going to make those resources available to you. So there's questions and there's the framework on how you can kind of self-assess in terms of an AI readiness assessment. And again, this is just to get started, but the main thing is how we have people understand what AI is, and then how do we kind of connect that to a business need and identify those business needs, so now we can see the value of it and start the assessment there, right? So let's move on then to, okay, we then have kind of this AI adoption guide. So as we start thinking about the 3 steps to that model, and I'm going to jump into the adoption next, is there's 3 steps to this model that we're talking about, right? There's fundamental readiness. So do you have the appropriate infrastructure and software and not technical employees and students to engage with AI, right? So this idea of like fundamental components of that framework on the assessment as we start thinking about it. The second part is around operational readiness, right? You can have the right technology and systems in place, right? But you don't achieve success without governance, facilitation, and skills to operationalize those AI ambitions. So the operational part is about having kind of the governance, the skills, and making sure that everybody is aligned with that and has the right skills. And the third one is around transformational readiness. Are you able to maximize the value of your school that they get from AI? So this third step of AI readiness is understanding if your organization can maximize the value of AI, which AI can create, whether that be an automation of a process or delivering better student experience, right? So maximize in this context means reinvesting the energy and resources into your AI successes so that they impact your institution for the better. So if that means embracing change in day-to-day operations, that will result in so on and so forth. So we'll have some questions and we'll have kind of a framework for all of that as we kind of put this together. But we'll make sure to share the AI readiness guide for higher ed. So the next part that we also put together, it's like, well, okay, so we're assessing ourselves, but now what happens next, right? It's like we need to start somewhere. So we need to have some guidance on how do we start, where do we start from? And this is kind of where we thought about it and we put together an AI adoption guide, which kind of everything falls into place, right? As element, we put together the ultimate guide for AI in higher education, which gives you a lot of the components. That's what we based a lot of the series on. But then we went a step further and say, okay, we need another tool to kind of assess and what are the right questions to ask and to see how organizations are aligned with this. And the last one is, how about we put a light framework together for AI adoption? So we talk about selecting the right opportunity. How do you consider pilot projects? Mapping the process that you already have right now. How do you go about process mapping into kind of that successful pilot selection? And then last but not least is identifying resources, people and technology. So those three critical kind of steps here for kind of accelerating AI adoption at your institution. So again, we will share that as well with you as it's ready. It's actually getting finished as we speak right now. So we'll share that. All right. So that's a wrap, everybody, on this series. We are hoping that you took a lot out of it. We're going to make this available for everyone, and all these recordings available for everyone, including those resources. So I did say we're going to spend a little time asking questions. So one of the questions that we have is, how do we set up AI tutors for our students that then report back to teachers on how the students are doing? And this is a question from Randy. Randy, that is an amazing question. There's a whole system that you need to build around, like we are maybe a little bit further away on that. There's companies like Coursera, there's companies like Duolingo that they're building that technology in their products. Duolingo, if you're not familiar, is a company that it's around language learning. So they're using AI and AI bots to come back and say, okay, here's how you're doing, and it's kind of adjusting that based on the student's kind of path. But in this case, what Rain is asking is about assessment. It's how do you assess, a student, which is a little bit of a hidden kind of question in there, of course. And right now, you would not be able to set those up on your own unless it's kind of integrated within your LMS or learning management system. I don't know of any products right now that, like I said, besides some of the Coursera courses and so on and so forth. Khan Academy does it really nicely. They actually have a bot called Khanmigo that they use on their platform. Again, this is for K through 12. I'm not sure for some of the fundamental courses for higher education as well, they have it. All right, so next question. We have a lot of conversation in the chat right now. Does AI breed a lazy generation intellectually? In a nutshell, will AI make us intellectually lazy? Now, this is a question that every generation has dealt with. Of course, I'm no stranger to that, right? So as we've moved from newspapers to radio, from radio to TV, from TV to the internet, and so on and so forth, the ability for us to access information and digest that information has grown tremendously. Are people lazy just because they have more information at their fingertips, right? And we shouldn't be looking at it that way. As part of the student experience, I'm really at awe at how the new generation is adapting to all of the signals that we're sending their way. They are bombarded by social media, by regular media, by TV, but all of these different signals. And I give them a lot of kudos for kind of shutting down those signals and being able to process them at the speed that they're coming. Our brains are not meant to digest all of this information. So when you say, are they getting lazy because they're getting all these things or they're able to access all of these things at their fingertips, I would say no. Kind of the effect would be that we need to educate them so they're actually better at filtering things out and reasoning. Reasoning is one of the areas where AI has not surpassed us yet. Humans are really good at the reasoning component. So once AI gets really good at reasoning, then we're going to see an erosion of the work that we do day to day today. So it's going to be able to replace a lot more of the human capabilities. But I don't think they're getting intellectually lazy. I would say the world has much more information that's being generated today than was a decade ago, and it was 2 decades ago, and so on and so forth. So it's going to be really difficult for the next generation or this younger generation to keep an eye out out and think about how do they digest this, how do they become better editors, and so on and so forth. Hopefully AI can help in that, right? We need help desperately because our feeds and our bombardment with all of this information, we need to digest that, and hopefully AI can help us in that area as well. All right. So if you are interested in learning more and thinking about how do you think about AI in your campus, go take a look at the rest of the series. We try to make it very digestible for you. The AI guide is a super, super detailed and definite guide to all of the AI components and all the questions that you need to know. But then we're going to put out more and more educational content and material. But the number one thing that you can do in your campuses today, personally, it's just start, right? Just start somewhere. Start using it today, because the longer you wait, the longer that gap is going to be. And we all know that AI is transformational. We just don't know where to start. So start somewhere. Every day, compounding it 1% at a time, you're going to get a lot better at it. And if you're looking at it for your own campuses, think about what's going to make the biggest impact. Traditionally and usually, when you look at that, you think student experience. How can we provide the fastest, best experience for those students by utilizing AI, using AI 24/7, AI bots, AI assistants? That's an area where I would highly suggest you take a look at right now, because with little investment there, you can make a huge difference. And that's what we're doing every single day, responding to questions, answering questions. Marketing and personalization is another area. So I would start focusing on those specifically. But again, if you are here and you're on the academic side, there's a lot of things you could do there. If you're on the IT side, how do you deal with data and insights around that data? AI can certainly help there as well. All right, everyone. Well, I really hope everybody has enjoyed the series. I welcome you to send messages directly to artists@element451.com if you have more questions, or if you want to reach out and just give us your feedback on how did we do on this series. We're going to make it available for everyone as we go forward. Thanks again, and have a wonderful rest of the day, and have a wonderful rest of the week as well.